Alright, it's about time I make that new Cyberpunk video. But you know what? First, let's check Twitter and see if there have been any new updates. Oh. Oh? Cyberpunk has been delayed again. They literally tweeted that there would be no more delays. And here we go. Delayed again. Delayed another 3 weeks. Isn't that cool? That's just great. You know, I know we'll all get over it. But something serious must be wrong with the game for them to have done this. I mean, the Keanu Reeves marketing, you know, like, the marketing train has already, like, hit the station at this point. For all intents and purposes, they thought they were going to hit that date. They must have seen some kind of game-breaking bug, or maybe the console versions were just basically unplayable, the current gen versions. Either that or, I don't know, maybe Sony or Microsoft paid the money to have the next gen versions available at time of launch. I don't know. But, dude, come on, man. Come on! So this just proves that the crunch time controversy was for nothing. Like, I mean, I never thought it was a big deal, as you know, if you saw my Jim Sterling video. But, you've gotta be fucking kidding me. Come on! Get your shit together, CDPR. Really? This is not a game stuck in development hell. So don't compare this to, like, you know, like Duke Nukem Forever or some other game like Final Fantasy 15, something that got delayed a million times, because it's not the same. This is a game that has been active development for, well, we don't know exactly how long, but 4 years, roughly, right? It wasn't in active development until after Witcher 3 released. So maybe 5 years at the most. And God, we're so close. We were so close. Why? Why? Okay, on to the video. Let me just start off by saying I'm very hyped for this game. I really am. Like, I haven't been this hyped for a game in literally years. Probably 5 years. Which culminated in one of the greatest disappointments I've ever had. Which was Fallout 4. But that subject matter is for another video. Now, I've finally allowed myself to get into, you know, extreme hype territory, which is dangerous. Let's be frank. You should never be as hyped as I am right now. And I'm not even as hyped as the people obsessed on Reddit who just refresh the page every hour, read every post, look for every screenshot. And if you're expecting this video to be, you know, like, oh, well, actually, Cyberpunk 2077 is gonna be complete shit. No, no. No. This video is about unrealistic expectations based on the hype train. I mean, this is what happens. Like, even AAA games that us, like, more hardcore gamers think are gonna suck, there's still gonna be, like, a bunch of fanboys who gather on some forum and hype it into the moon, and will inevitably be disappointed, right? So let's just talk about, like, what Cyberpunk is and what Cyberpunk isn't. Because there have been a lot of weird misconceptions about what the game actually is lately that I've seen. So let's just go over everything that we know. Well, I'll sum it up for you. I'm not gonna be one of those lore dive videos. There's plenty of YouTubers who cover Cyberpunk lore, if you want to see that kind of thing. I'm just going to talk about the gameplay mechanics and what type of genre this game really is, right? To give you some hopefully more realistic expectations, because there's no way I'm going to be able to calm down this hype train, you know? So let's just at least steer it in the right direction. So, if you're planning on going into Cyberpunk completely blind, you might want to skip this video, because I'm not going to go over any plot spoilers at all, even though we barely know anything about the plot anyway. I'm not really going to cover the plot at all. But I am going to cover all of the gameplay mechanics, and this video is going to show footage from all the Night City wires, the 2018 E3 trailer, and the 2019 Deep Dive trailer. So, yeah, if you don't want to see that stuff, assuming you haven't already, yeah, just skip this one, guys. But before I get into the video proper, I've finally started a Patreon. So, here's the thing, I just want to say, because I know you guys have heard a million, you know, I have a Patreon, support me, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I don't want you to worry about me, alright? Do not donate more than you can afford. Do not donate any significant amount of money monthly to me, okay? I'm just a guy who makes YouTube videos, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna keep making YouTube videos. However, the reason I'm starting this Patreon is because, one, I want to cover more AAA games, and I'm an impoverished man. I'll just put it at that. I do not make a lot of money, people. I really don't. I know you're not allowed to go over the exact money you made off YouTube, but I basically made no money off YouTube. I've made basically nothing. AdSense has been in the toilet for literally years. You probably know this. I'm currently unemployed, so yeah, I basically make nothing. And I want to cover modern games, and modern games are expensive, right? You know, just over the past month alone, I've covered, you know, Crash Bandicoot, which is $60. I'm gonna cover Watch Dogs, which is $60. I pre-ordered Cyberpunk, which is $60. You know, the shit adds up pretty fast, right? And obviously, I'm still always gonna cover old games along with new and make these kind of discussion videos or rants or whatever. But, guys, you know, I can't afford to keep doing this, right? Now, for those of you who are wondering, well, what do I get out of this? Because, you know, I don't want to just donate money to support a poor YouTuber person that I don't know, that, I don't know, I feel bad for, I guess, for some reason. Obviously, if you donate $1 a month, you know, I'm going to put all my patrons in the credits of every video. So that's pretty simple. And obviously know that I thank you from the bottom of my heart. But also, if you donate $5 a month, I'm going to start a raffle, essentially, to have me review whatever you want. So one user a month will get selected, and out of that pool of out of the level 2 patrons, and I will make whatever you want. You can request any kind of video, and I'll do it, with a few exceptions. Mainly just, I'm not gonna do like Call of Duty or something. I mean, anyone can do that, but I will do pretty much any video. So yeah, okay, that's it. Other than that, you know, remember to like, favorite, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You know, I make other videos on the channel. You know, that spiel. Alright, on to the Cyberpunk. Okay, so first, let me just deal with the cynics. Because, honestly, I'm not going to be able to change your mind. You know, if you think Cyberpunk's going to suck, the only thing that's going to change that is the game coming out and you seeing for yourself. And I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. Because healthy skepticism is fine, to be honest. Like, especially in this industry, you know, where everything's gone into the toilet. Yeah. You shouldn't get hyped for any AAA game anymore, really. And if it turns out to be good, great. But that's probably not going to happen. Cyberpunk is an exception for multiple reasons that you've all heard before, so it's not worth going over. But for you cynics, I do want to talk about what gameplay features have been cut from the game, or features that never existed that people were possibly hoping for, right? I'll try to cover them all. But basically, the features that were cut since the 2018 trailer. There's no wall running. That was something that we saw with the Mantis Blades. I guess they just couldn't find a way to really balance it with the game world without it being game-breaking in some way. Like, you could probably do sequence breaks, as I'm sure climbing any building would create a lot of problems, you know, and wall running, maybe you could skip, like, entire sections of a level or something. Who knows, right? We'll never know. I don't really care that much about the wall running, personally. But the other one, this was kind of a big deal, was they cut out the robot. Whatever, I'll put the robot's name on screen. But the point is that spider bot is only for that mission and maybe a couple other missions. It is no longer part of, like, the techie skill path, skill tree, any of that, right? Essentially, CDPR said that both they can't balance the robot for normal gameplay in the missions, but also the techie and netrunner trees were too similar, so they've essentially been combined, right? Yeah, so getting rid of the robot kind of sucks, to be honest, but oh well. As for other features, this is going to tie into a later section, but there is no vehicle customization. Especially you people who think this is going to be GTA in the future, there's no vehicle customization. You can't, like, hijack hover cars. You can't even drive hover cars at all in the game. The Aerodyne vehicles, the AV4s, AV6s, those, right? No hover car flying. No piloting. It's only for used, I guess, for cutscenes and, I don't know, some important story moment, scripted stuff. And I mean, I don't even think I really need to explain that one. Obviously, that would break a lot of the game. And that's just further proof that this is not GTA. It's not that kind of sandbox, right? So yeah, no hover cars, which is unfortunate. Oh yeah, the subway. You can't go in the subway. I don't really care about that. And there's probably a few other things, but really, the only things that were actually cut were the robot and wall running. Everything else was purely speculation in that list, right? So yeah, I guess that's it for the Cynic portion, because there's not really much else to say. If you're not excited, just wait and find out, right? Now for everybody else, okay. For you who are extremely hyped beyond any realistic expectations, for those of you who don't seem to understand how game development works, for those of you who, think this game is going to be the second coming of Jesus, at the end of the day, it's just a video game, A video game, unfortunately, has certain limitations, and I don't want to give you a Game Development 101 because I'm not the guy who could give you that, right? But I am going to tell you what this game is and what this game isn't. And first of all, it's not GTA in the future. I don't even know where this misconception came from. I really don't. I mean, my guess is, and I've talked about this before, fans of mine, you know what I'm going to say already. This is the casuals. This is the normies. The normies who didn't care about this game until the last couple months, and they started seeing crazy advertising. Maybe they watched one Night City Wire, I'm guessing the latest one. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, it's GTA in the future. No, absolutely not. This is an FPS RPG that happens to be in a sandbox, right? Now, what does that mean if you're a casual, right? Well, let me explain. I guess the easiest way would just be compared to a game you've probably played, or maybe not. You should. Fallout 3 in New Vegas. That's the easiest. That's the easiest. Like, gameplay terms, this is going to be somewhat similar to that. In terms of leveling, skill trees, skill checks, speech will likely have some ties to this. We don't know for sure. And the point is, you level up, you have attribute points, you have perks that tie into skills that are related to those attributes. If I remember correctly, it's 5 attributes, 12 skills, and then 20 perks per skill, which I think technically that's speculation, but I guess it's a fair guess to say that there's 20 perks per skill, which would mean 240 perks, which would be absolutely insane if that is what it is, but I'm guessing that some of the skills don't have 20 perks. And what this is based off of is that each attribute can be raised to 20. Now, in character creation, obviously you can't take it that far. I believe you can set it between 3 and 10, right? But over the course of the game and leveling up, you can eventually raise an attribute all the way to 20. Now, in terms of shooting mechanics and stuff, I mean, I wish we knew more about the shooting. But essentially, you have, this is a loot game to a degree, which I am slightly skeptical about myself as someone who doesn't like Borderlands. But, guns have rarities, they have mod slots, all sorts of stats, damage, rate of fire. I don't know if recoil has a stat, but obviously recoil is variable between guns, all sorts of things, right? And weapons are also divided into one of 3 types. There's power weapons, tech weapons, and smart weapons, right? Power weapons can reflect their bullets off of surfaces, which is pretty cool. So you could shoot someone from around a corner if you angle it just right. And there's also cybernetics that let you path out where the bullets are going to fire. so you can actually get those ricochet shots to kill somebody, which is very cool. Tech weapons are essentially like mini railguns, in that all of their bullets are accelerated through, I don't know, whatever technology, which means they can punch straight through cover, which is pretty sweet. And then we have smart weapons, which actually lock on to enemies, and every bullet is like a mini rocket and can curve and, you know, hit somebody no matter where they are. You know, they're homing bullets. There's damage numbers when you shoot somebody. That should tell you it's an RPG, or at least somewhat of one. Not to mention, each weapon type has its own individual level, which affects your reload speed and amount of recoil, and even the reload animation itself. So yeah, I mean, this is clearly an RPG. But onto, like, I guess, so let's talk about the actual, like, GTA misconception shit and where it comes from, right? So there's vehicles in this game, 29 different base models, if I remember correctly. And those 29 different vehicles, except for the Porsche, each have different variants based on those styles we saw in the style trailer, essentially, plus Nomad. We don't really know how many models there will be per vehicle, but I would guess anywhere from 2 to 5 based on these. So you would have your kitsch vehicles, which are, you know, the stylized ones, the entropy vehicles, which are run down and just pieces of trash, right? Then you have the neo-militarism ones, which I guess would be the sleek, practical, armored. Obviously, I'm guessing most of them are shades of black or gray or whatever, because that's always how these things are. And finally, you have neo-kitsch, which is like the extremely expensive, over-the-top, flashy vehicles, right? That are probably also armored to protect the celebrities. And then, as a bonus, there's the Nomad vehicles that, I guess, you could argue to a degree that they split off from Entropism, but they've been modified Mad Max style to survive in the wasteland, right? So they're not just pieces of junk, they're practical pieces of junk, right? Probably some of them have guns on them, I would guess, that we can get a hold of. We haven't really seen that yet. But yeah, these are the Mad Max vehicles. And of course, like GTA, you can steal vehicles, right? But that's about it. That's where it ends. That's basically where the similarity ends with GTA. You can steal vehicles, and it's an open world. That's it. That's literally it. People thought it was GTA in the future based on that and some marketing. And that's the thing. I've said this before, and I still stick with it, that CDPR did this on purpose with the marketing. They kind of accomplished their mission. They knew this game was extremely expensive, so they needed to get the casual audience to buy the game. And how do you do that? Well, you make it look as, you know, actiony and like lighthearted and appealing and cool as possible. And this has led to recently people asking about, well, is the game still dark? You know, because Cyberpunk is a very dark genre, you know, it's very depressing. It's what every, you know, Reddit soy boy thinks late stage you know, like our late stage capitalism future is gonna look like, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's not good. Nobody wants to live there. You know, it's hell. Unemployment is sky high, and crime is sky high. Fucking shootings sky high. Basically, every crime, all misery related to, you know, our class-based system.
In 2077, they voted my city the worst place to live in America. Main issues: sky-high rate of violence, and more people living below the poverty line than anywhere else.
But, you know, I'm not here to give you a lesson on Cyberpunk. Maybe in a future video. But yeah, here's the thing about the whole stealing vehicles thing. You don't even get to keep those vehicles. The player-acquired vehicles have to be bought or won in like a mission, or given to you in like a mission, right? That's what CDPR has said themselves. So when you're stealing a vehicle, that's really just like for the moment to like try something out. We don't even know like how they'll despawn, and they're not going to hold your inventory stuff. Because that's another thing too, is player-owned vehicles have all your guns and stuff in them, right? And you can't just hijack any vehicle. Like, there are actual skill checks depending on how you hijack them, right? If you're literally stealing a car on the street, there's a strength check because you have to rip the person in and out of the vehicle, right? And if they're cybered up, you know, you better be fucking cybered up too if you think you can rip them out, right? And as for vehicles that are parked, you have to actually hack into them, you know? So you better have your net running skills up, or you're not going to take that vehicle on the street. I guess, you know, I've extended this section long enough, but my point is that other than it being in an open world and you also being able to steal cars, there's nothing in common with GTA. This is an RPG. You level up, you pick stats, your guns have stats, your clothing has stats. There's like dialogue choices, there's mission choice, you know? No, absolutely not. Though, one more thing I do want to address that I almost forgot about is that you can kill civilians. Like, you can just straight up run them over, shoot them, whatever. And depending on where in the city you are, you will essentially get a wanted level. The thing is, if you're in one of the combat zones or, you know, heavy gang territory, the cops aren't going to come. It's going to be the gangs that fight you, right? However, if you're in like the city center or one of the richer neighborhoods, then yeah, the cops are going to come after you, and they're going to come after you hard. Apparently the cops are supposed to be pretty strong in this game based on the 5 hours that certain people got to play back in July. And I'm assuming, too, if you somehow manage to defeat those cops, Max Tack is going to come after you, which is the Cyber Psycho Squad. They're cybered up SWAT. I mean, they're essentially like full Borgs that are in a SWAT team, and they're going to fuck you up, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of GTA, but it's like GTA but better, really, is what it is. Now, the other insane expectations that people had, and I gotta say, mostly I've only seen this on Reddit. I don't know why. You know, maybe there's other places where people got really weird about this game, but it was mostly Reddit from what I could see. This is not a life simulator, people. This, like, I don't even know where that misconception came from either. I think it had something to do with the genital customization, if I'm being honest. A lot of stupid shit came out of that. But yeah, there are people who think you're gonna have to, like, trim your fingernails in real time in this game, essentially. I wish I was joking. But no, like, literally, there's people who want to have to, like, take a piss every couple hours. There's people who want to, like, go to your 9 to 5 minimum wage job. There's people, like, it's so weird to me. There was never any hint the game would be like this. It's just because of, like, these weird little details that have been shown off in these trailers that, I don't know, people just thought you would... Okay, I know I'm kind of talking about fringe cases, but if I were to talk about, like, more realistic, like, expectations I've seen that are probably closer to the truth that I think more people hold. There are people who think that if you pick the corpo life path, that you're actually going to climb your way up the corporate ladder, or some shit. I mean, what? We already know that the life paths only affect the first few hours of the game, and then it converges story-wise. I mean, sure, you'll have your unique dialogue choices that might affect certain missions based on your life path, which I think is really cool. And it affects your ending in some way. We don't know how. But, dude, this game is about being a mercenary. We already know that. There's not going to be any, like, huge divergence from that. V, as much as people don't want to hear this, V is already half a pre-established character. You know, this is not D&D, dude. If you want to play, you know, pen and paper, play pen and paper, okay? Like, the Cyberpunk Red RPG is coming out in a couple weeks, you know? So, play the tabletop game with your buddies, and you can make whatever character you want. No. V is a story about a mercenary, right? A mercenary who, well, I said I wouldn't talk about the plot, but the point is you do mercenary shit, and obviously you get wrapped up in a plot that's much bigger than you ever thought you would, blah blah blah, you know, every hero's journey type story, right? And yeah, I mean, you do jobs for fixers, and you kill people or not, because something that apparently was worth development time is making sure you could non-lethally take out every enemy. Guys, this isn't Deus Ex or Dishonored. They literally said there's no trophy for non-lethally taking down every enemy. So unless it affects the ending in some way, that just seems like a complete waste of time. Another thing too, they said, is you can play the entire game without getting any additional cybernetics on top of the Kuroshi eye scanner and the subdermal hand shit or whatever. I forget what it's all called for your guns to see your ammo counter and stuff. But why though? Again, if there's no trophy or achievement or whatever, or unlockables, or they literally said they don't want to incentivize a certain playstyle so you can play however you want. So yeah, I guess it's good that those, like the 5 people who want to play the entire game non-lethally with no cybernetics can do that, but that just sounds like not fun at all. Like, especially since this isn't really like a hardcore stealth game. It's just, it has stealth mechanics, but I doubt they're gonna be as complex as, you know, Deus Ex Human Revolution or something, you know? I don't know, maybe I'll be surprised. I think another thing too I remember is, like, someone thinks the Nomad life path, you'll be able to just not go to Night City or something, just like chill in the wasteland forever. It's like, guys, it's not that kind of game. It's a single player game with a story. Yeah, it's got a bunch of side quests and a world to explore. But at the end of the day, it's just like Witcher 3. Just think of it like Witcher 3. That's what they're doing. I guess, you know, I've already droned on pretty long. But if I were to sum up what this game is, think of it like Fallout 3 combined with Witcher 3 in the world of Blade Runner, or, you know, Johnny Mnemonic, or Fifth Element without the space stuff. You know, just think of whatever your favorite Cyberpunk movie is. Dread. You know, it's that's what the game is. Sure, it has a little bit of GTA. It has a little bit of like simulation-y stuff. Not really that much. Guys, you know, it's an FPS RPG. That's what the game is. And this is why, like, okay, so, you know, to talk about hype, since apparently that was supposed to be the premise, and I've just derailed myself way beyond that premise. This is what happens when you get too excited for something. Like, you forget at the end of the day, this is just a video game. You know, if you played a bunch of video games, which if you haven't, there's your first problem. But if you played, like, you know, at least 100 games, you know what a video game is. I mean, you know that this isn't gonna be, like, it's like No Man's Sky all over again. It's like everyone just got naive and started believing really stupid shit that would never happen, you know? And how many more disappointments do we need before you people learn?
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
There's so many disappointing video games, man. So many this console generation. And probably going to be just as many the next console generation, because I don't see gaming getting better anytime soon. You know, I already covered a long list in a previous video of gaming disappointments. I can list that here. But even just, you know, if you think about it, like, there's still plenty I left out. There were so many people. Like, remember when people were excited for Watch Dogs 1? Based on that, like, CGI trailer that looked real? And then the graphics weren't even close to that good? Not that I cared, because I don't care about graphics. But then the game was just a mediocre sandbox game. That really was a, you know, a discount GTA with a really simplistic hacking mechanic. And Ubisoft towers, you know, that you had to hack and shit. Oh my god. People don't learn, man. They don't learn. Fallout 4 was such a disappointment, dude. Such a disappointment. Earlier in the video when I brought out, hey, it's like Fallout 3 New Vegas. If you said in your mind, well, I played Fallout 4, what about that? Fucking stop. Just go back and play Fallout 3 New Vegas. Never think about Fallout 4 again. Don't even let it enter your brain. Just don't think about it. Because it sucks, and it's not even an RPG. Maybe by some technicality it's still an RPG. But no, Fallout 4 is an FPS. It's an FPS with very light, very terribly balanced, and just terribly designed RPG mechanics that don't offer any player choice whatsoever. Because everything was level restricted. and there was no narrative choice other than artificial ones. And God, the writing was so bad. The writing was so fucking bad. I hate Fallout 4. I'm just gonna say it. People, you gotta stop getting super hyped. Stop riding the hype train. And stop needing the hype train just to play a video game. This is why people don't play old games, because like, well, there's nobody talking about that game. That game's like 10 years old. That game's like 15 years old. Who cares? It's a fun game. And again, if your graphics whore, well, nothing can be done for you. Maybe someday you'll lose your eyesight and be able to play better games. But for everybody else who doesn't care about graphics, there's nothing stopping you. Just play the games. They're fun and cool. And I make, reviews on old games that are fun. And now that Cyberpunk has been delayed for 3 more weeks, I guess I'm going to be making some more retro reviews. And we'll probably make one of those fan requested reviews. Because, yeah, now I got time. I'm excited for Cyberpunk, I am. But you people, just relax. Relax. See what the game is. Watch the footage for yourself that they've revealed for us. See what the game is. And be patient. I'm not patient anymore now that it's been delayed again. But, God, I don't know. Okay, that's the end of the video. So, I have a Patreon now. Isn't that cool? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, like I said, don't feel pressured at all to donate to it, but yeah, it helps out a lot. Other than that, all my plans have kind of just gone down the toilet. I mean, obviously, I'm going to review Watch Dogs Legion in a couple days, as I've talked about a few times, and hopefully that's a decent game. I'm not really excited about it, except that I am excited to actually play a new game for once that normally I would never play. Like, obviously I was excited for Crash 4 because I was hyped for that and it was a great game and I love it. But Watch Dogs, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've just bought a AAA game that I didn't care about at all, really. But it does have an interesting premise, and I'll try to approach it as objectively as possible with obviously my usual, subjective view on things. But I didn't hate Watch Dogs 2. I thought it was fine. So if this improves on that, maybe it'll be worth it. Probably not worth $60, but, I'm making that sacrifice for you guys to find out. Yeah. I don't know. Other than that, I'm just bummed out about the Cyberpunk delay. I'll see you next time, guys.